Thank you. You're very kind. My name is Percy Parton, and may I say straight away how delighted I was to receive your invitation to come along here today to entertain you with this, my very own story. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, that what we are about to witness in a few moments' time is my very own personal, individual, singular, and utterly original narrative. Remember where you heard it first, from me, the horse's mouth. But seriously, enough of that, and as we often say in the magical world of the theater, on with the show. May I first of all introduce you to the people who will be assisting us with our production today. Taking care of music and sound in the sound booth, Mr. Reg Cord. Secondly, the most important people who will be taking part in my very own story. Ladies and gentlemen, the actors. Now, do bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I have outside in a taxi, which is still taking over, incidentally, one or two small props and additional items which we will be using to assist us with our storytelling today. I won't be 1 second, I promise. Perhaps in the meantime, I could ask Mr. Cord, if he would, to entertain you with a selection of brief musical moments. Don't go away. Thank you, Mr. Cord.
Thank you so very much. You're most kind. I must apologize for being a tiny bit late, blame the traffic. Hello, my name is Peter Patchett, and may I say right at the start how delighted I was to receive your invitation to come along here today to entertain you with this, my very own story. Never forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, that what you're about to witness here in just a second or two will be my own personal, unique, singular, and quintessentially original narrative. Avoid cheap imitations. Insist only on the original. Yours truly. But enough mirth for the present. And as we often say in the wondrous world of theater, let's get this show on the road. May I first of all, though, introduce you to the people who will be assisting me today. Taking care of music and sound, Mr. Bill Nelk, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, those people who will be taking part in my very own story, ladies and gentlemen, the players themselves. Now you're going to have to excuse me for just 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I have to fetch one or two small props and additional items from my van outside, I'm afraid. I won't be one moment. I do so apologize. Meanwhile, I will ask Mr. Notes if he'd be good enough to entertain you with a few lingering magical musical moments. I won't be 1 second. Stay right there. Take it away, Mr. Notes.
Keep you long. Carry on, Mr. Cord.
Look, I'm terribly late, I know, and I do sincerely beg your pardon, all of you. I'm afraid we have Amtrak to blame for this. My name is Paul Peel, and believe me, I'm delighted to be here at long last. Thank you for asking me. And for your patience, I won't waste another moment of your time. Just to put you in the picture, what you're about to hear is my incomparable, unparalleled, supremely distinctive, highly individual, very own story. Beware of cheap imitations. Insist on the original, me. But no time for jokes. Let us, as we show business people are wont to say, ring up the curtain. But before we can do that, I must first introduce you to the people who will be assisting me today. Taking care of music and sound, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Toon. And now for those very special people who will be playing various roles in my very own story today. Ladies and gentlemen, the performers. Look, I'm afraid I'm going to have to crave just some more smidgen of your patience. I've got a couple of bags of stuff outside I have to bring in before we can start. I do beg your pardon. So I'm going to ask Mr. Toon here if he wouldn't mind playing a few myriad melodies just for a quick second. Would you mind so awfully, Mr. Toon? Thank you. Won't be a tick.
Nearly there. Keep going, Mr. Notes.
That's the lot. Just going to pay for the taxi. Thank you, Mr. Cord. Keep up the good work.
One more. Hang on. Carry on, Mr. Toon.
That's it. Just got to go lock the van. Bravo, Mr. Notes. Thank you.
All right now, thank you for waiting. And thank you, Mr. Cord. And thank you, Reg. A big hand for Reg Cord, ladies and gentlemen. Now, my very own story. Imagine it is nighttime in a dark, dark wood. Imagine that.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been very patient. Thank you again. And a special big thank you to Mr. Bill Notes for keeping us all entertained. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Notes, thank you. Thank you. You're very generous. Now gather around, everyone, please, for this. My very own story. It started one bright September morning when I was...
Hey, I say, hey!
What?
I say, do you mind?
Sorry, do you mind?
No, I'm saying, do you mind?
Look, do you mind?
No, I'm asking, do you mind?
That's what I'm asking you. Do you mind?
No, I'm the one who's doing the asking. Do you mind?
Well, yes, I do. I certainly do mind, if you don't mind.
Me? Indeed, I do mind. Never mind asking me if I mind. I'm asking you. Do you mind?
How many more times? Yes, I do. I mind very much.
Well, so do I. So mind out of the way.
Mind it now. Mind it.
No, you mind it, mate. You're the one to mind it. I've got a good mind to give you a piece of my mind in a minute. Mind.
I don't mind. See if I mind. You're out of your mind anyway. I have half a mind too.
A mind to what? A mind to what?
Never mind. Mindless git.
Now mind your language.
Mind your own business.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and I do promise you that will be our last delay, the very last one. And under the circumstances, I think especially big hand is in order for our noble keyboard player, Mr. Toon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Toon. And now, off we go. My very own story, chapter 1. Imagine, if you will, one wet afternoon in June. I was returning from a...
Hey, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
No, I'm sorry.
You're sorry? Sorry, I'm the one who should be sorry, surely.
There's no point in being sorry now, is there?
Well, this is a sorry state of affairs.
Sorry?
Sorry, I was just...
This needs... I think we ought to sort this out. Don't you?
We should.
It's perfectly simple. I have every right to be here, and you two haven't. That's the long and short of it.
Is it now?
Yes.
Really?
It most certainly is.
Just 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen.
One moment.
Just 1 second. Music, please, Mr. Toon.
Mr. Cord.
Mr. Notes?
Oh, quiet.
Quiet. Quiet!
Listen, this can be sorted out very quickly. There's obviously been a triple booking here. No need for aggravation, I'm sure. After all, we're all members of this wonderful brotherhood of show business. Here we are. Legal proof, if proof is needed. This agreement between, on the one hand, the theater company, hereinafter referred to as the employer, and the entertainer, hereinafter referred to as the undersigned. Oh, here we go. I, Percy Parton, do hereby agree.
I, Peter Patchett, do hereby agree.
I, Paul Peel, do hereby agree.
To abide.
To abide.
To abide.
By.
By.
Let me see that.
Let me see
I
that.
see that.
Let me see that.
Let me see
Let me
that.
see that.
This seems...
To be...
In order?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
This needs thinking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Notes?
Mr. Cord.
Mr. Toon?
Oh, just a moment.
What?
What is it?
Listen, we're faced with a problem, right?
Correct.
True.
Now, I may be wrong, but it seems we have far too many storytellers here.
Two.
Too many.
So, either you leave,
Here, here.
Absolutely not.
or you leave,
Brilliant.
Out of the question.
or I leave,
Good idea.
which we won't even bother to discuss.
so we're all staying.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Well, we can't tell 3 stories, can we?
Take all night.
Right.
In that case, we'd better all tell the same story.
Well, you're certainly not going to tell my very own story.
Nobody tells my very own story but me.
I was thinking we might tell my very own story, actually.
Your very own story.
Certainly not. It's yours.
It's just an idea.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Yes?
What is it?
Will we be starting anytime soon?
Just a moment.
Only the people are getting a bit restless.
2 seconds.
But you see, we've been bowing a lot, but not a lot of acting.
Literally half a second.
Sorry for the disturbance.
Not at all.
I think
Yes?
Yes?
I think the only way around this is by chance.
We could draw for it.
Lots?
Well, only once or twice. Just till we decide.
Oh, I've got it. The yes or no game. We all keep talking, but none of us can say yes or no. If one of us says yes or no, we're out of the game. What's about that, then?
No.
Right? You're both out, I win.
Just a minute, we weren't ready.
Not ready.
Anyway, it's a stupid game. You can never win it.
Yes, you can.
Right, that's you out.
I wasn't playing.
You heard him. He said it, didn't he?
Yes.
Right, that's you out too. I win.
He didn't say anything, did he?
Yes, he did.
Right? That's you out.
Just a minute, just a minute.
All right. Start again. The real start, okay? The real start of the game. Both ready.
I am ready.
Yeah, I am quite ready.
Somebody say something.
Why?
Because we can't decide the game unless somebody says something, can we?
Lovely weather, isn't it?
When?
Lately.
Where?
Up there, in the sky.
Sorry, did you say something?
No.
Out!
That wasn't fair!
Out.
Just me and you?
Just us.
Sorry, did you say something?
Who, me?
Yes.
Out.
That was cheating.
Out.
Now, my very own story.
What will we do then?
What happens to us?
I don't know then. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Off you go.
Go?
So long.
But we...
Cheerio.
We...
Ta-ta. All right, ladies and
Wait! What about all of our...
Later, you can collect them later. Thank you for waiting, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Now, my very own story. It is a tragic Victorian tale that I have entitled The Donkey. Imagine it is nighttime in a woods a few days before Christmas, many long forgotten years ago. It is bitterly cold, a sharp, slicing, biting wind. Thick snow lies on the ground, snow so deep that it is almost impossible to make out the rough cart track that winds between the trunks of the huge, tall trees. Very few people venture out in weather such as this, and rarely, if ever, at night. Yet it was along this path that I, Rupert Fellows, found myself traveling alone. I had been intending to spend the holiday with my brother and his family. They had recently moved away, and I was anxious to see both him, his wife, and most especially my angelic little nieces and nephews, for whom I had bought a whole trunkload of gifts and presents. I must confess, though, that when I set out, I had no idea what a remote and God-forsaken district they had chosen for their new home. Difficult to reach even in midsummer, the recent snowstorms had made their village all but inaccessible, and I had nearly given up hope of finding a driver. Then one particular fellow named Gorf approached me and offered his services. Had I not been so anxious for transportation, I may have realized that his willingness to convey me concealed an evil and ulterior design. This Gorf was certainly an evil-looking enough fellow, but I prided myself on never judging others on first appearances. The journey was, though, one of most thoroughly uncomfortable I had ever undergone. Gorf's coach could well have benefited from care and attention, his horses from food and better treatment, and his passengers from a little consideration. Unexpectedly, the coach pulled up with a shuddering suddenness. I must confess this abrupt lack of motion was a considerable physical relief. I leant out of the window and called to the man.
I say, what's happening? Why have we stopped, coachman?
The man Gorf, by way of reply, merely climbed out of the box seat, muttering incomprehensibly.
Monkey cowbird stuck in snow.
What's that you say?
Stuck in snow. Snow. Ooh! Stuck in snow.
Stuck in. Oh, stuck in.
Yar.
Right, stuck in the snow. Are we? Oh dear.
Monkey darn.
Munget darn.
Ye monkey darn.
Munget darn?
Ye monkey darn.
You mean me munget darn? Munget darn?
I confess to a certain difficulty understanding the fellow.
Munget darn, munget darn. What can he mean? Oh, get down?
Yar.
You want me to get darn?
On the ground.
On the ground. Right.
It was bitterly cold outside of the coach.
One. Ooh, ah.
You want me to push him, do you?
Yar.
Right. What are you going to do?
Oh, good pull.
You're going to pull him? I'll push him, you pull him. Fair enough.
Right.
Right, say when. I'm ready.
Right.
Suddenly, and before I could prevent him, the fellow had whipped up the horses in a trice and had galloped into the night, leaving me face down in the snow.
Hey!
I clambered to my feet and shouted after the fellow, cursing him roundly in no uncertain terms.
Rogue! Villain! Scoundrel!
But to no avail, my voice was all but lost in the increasing blizzard. I looked around me for signs of assistance, but I was helplessly lost now. The villain had taken everything I owned. My hip flask, my traveling rug, all my luggage, and worse still, all the Christmas presents intended for my angelic little nieces and nephews.
Blackguard!
I knew if I failed to find shelter soon, I would swiftly perish from the cold. But in what direction to walk, I had little idea. I was, I confess, hopelessly lost now. As the last evidence of cart track disappeared under ever-deepening snow, I walked for what seemed miles and miles, but for all I could tell, in circles.
Help! Help!
Cold wind sliced like a dagger through my clothes. My limbs grew wearier and my voice weaker.
Help!
And I resigned myself to death. Then, all of a sudden, I caught sight of something. A distant glimmer, a glint of, could it be? Lamplight. Yes, through that thick curtain of snowflakes, something. I struggled to my feet. I was feeble now and had reached the limit of my strength. But somehow I managed to stagger towards that ray of light, of hope, of life itself. The source of the light was a lamp illuminating a large stone building. Not quite a castle, but a house of some considerable size. Summoning the last gram of my strength, I crawled to the portal and knocked upon the door. It seemed an age before anyone answered.
Yes?
I'm sorry to disturb you.
But at that point, my strength finally gave out.
Mr. Yerp!
What's the matter, wife?
Help me with them here.
Whilst I was unconscious, they must have carried me inside. How long I remained thus I cannot tell, but my next memory will remain with me for the rest of my life. When I awoke, I was laying on a chaise lounge beside a log fire, and when I opened my eyes fully, there, standing before me, with a look of such tender compassion, a manner so demure and gentle, was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life.
Help me
need to remove his outer garments, Miss Yerp. This soaks through.
Yes, madam.
Yerp, please, build up the fire. He must be kept warm.
Yes, ma'am.
He's regaining consciousness quickly. We must fetch blankets.
Just a minute. Hold it a minute. You! Yes, you!
Me?
What are you doing in my story?
What do you think I'm doing? I'm playing Rupert.
Who said you could play Rupert?
They did.
They did.
Yeah, them back there.
What's it got to do with them?
They said to me, you can play Rupert. They said, you look alright, Rupert.
Rubbish. You don't look anything like him. Get off at once. Where's the real bloke? The one who's supposed to be doing him?
He's playing cards.
Playing cards? I'm paying for him. Get him out here.
Oh, leave him alone. He's good, this one.
He is. He's brilliant.
He's great.
He's better than the other one.
Great improvement.
Certainly is.
Thank you
playing
so much.
nice.
Listen, what are you lot playing at? What's going on here?
Go on.
Oh, go on.
Go
Go
on.
on.
Just get on with it.
Get on
We'll-
there.
Whose story is this anyways? All right, all right, all right! But I should have been asked first. This is my very own story, and I should have been asked first. Go on. Where were we?
I was asking them to fetch blankets.
Oh, go on then.
We must fetch blankets.
Yes, madam.
And also fire.
Yes, ma'am.
I gazed in wonder at this beautiful woman.
Who are you? Where am I?
He's not right for Rupert at all.
My name is Lenora Stringer. You're in Deepwood House. Miss here found you on our doorstep, half dead. How did you come to be here in a night like this? No, don't try to stand. You're exhausted. You need food and then you must sleep.
My name is Rupert Fellows. I need to get to my brother's house. They're expecting me.
Where does he live?
In Thornglade Village. Is it far?
Not too far, but you cannot possibly travel there tonight. You have to wait at least until the morning. Thank you. Miss Yerp, we will dine immediately, please.
Yes, madam. What about the master?
He will probably join us in due course.
Very good, madam.
And Miss Yerp,
Yes, madam.
you had better warn my brother that we have company tonight.
Yes, madam.
Do you live with your brother, Miss Stringer?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Fellows.
At the mention of her brother, her smooth and quite flawless complexion became marred by the hint of a frown. I was to note this phenomenon on future occasions whenever he was present or his name mentioned.
Dinner is served, madam.
Thank you, Yerp. Please, Mr. Fellows, sit here. Can you manage?
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
The dinner was superb, and my hostess never less than completely charming. However, I could not ignore the frequent and quite anxious glances she gave either towards the doorway or to the chair at the other end of the table.
It is a shame your brother is missing this delicious meal. May I inquire, will he be joining us soon?
It is of no consequence either way, Mr. Fellows. Frederick, my brother, couldn't eat these at all. He is on a rather strict and special diet
Oh dear.
for his health, that is all.
I see. Can he not eat meat?
Oh no, nor meat, nor fish, nor most vegetables.
How tragic. What is wrong with him?
He's...
But before she could finish, the door burst open, and I caught my first glimpse of her brother, Frederick Stringer. If two natures in a brother and sister could ever be described as opposing, then here indeed was a striking example. The one temperament sunny and outgoing, the other dark and withdrawn. The man entered the room but chose to ignore both of us completely.
Good evening, sir.
Frederick, dear, this is Mr. Fellows. He was trapped in a storm and he lost his way. He will be staying here with us for a night, if it is in your satisfaction.
But the brother sat as though unable to hear his sister at all.
How could one ignore such a divine creature as this?
You must really excuse my brother, Mr. Fellows. Sometimes he's lost in contemplation.
Oh, don't let it trouble you. I completely understand.
After the appearance of her brother, the meal took on a more somber tone as we lapsed into silence. In the absence of conversation, I could not help but observe the food that was being served to the brother Frederick. It was indeed singular fare, large helpings of what appeared to be no more nor less than long grass, prettily served on a silver platter. Accompanied by, could my eyes be deceiving me? A salad of common or garden thistles? Thistles?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Fellows. Did you speak?
Oh, I was merely remarking on the delicious quality of the food.
Whew.
It was not until the very end of the meal that the brother was to utter his first word.
Lenora, I note that we have company. I was not informed of this.
Oh, I'm sorry, my dear. I did.
How do you do, sir? My name...
Good night to you, sir.
You really must excuse my brother, Mr. Fellows. Sometimes he's
Lost in contemplation, perhaps?
precisely. He contemplates more and more these days.
An admirable quality and one we would all of us be wise to emulate, Miss Stringer.
But secretly I observed the brother to be both uncouth and ungallant. How could a brother and sister be so different?
Allow me to show you to your room, Mr. Fellows. You might be quite exhausted.
But if for the excitement and stimulation of the company, madam, I confess I would have fallen asleep an hour ago.
You're too kind, Mr. Fellows.
She and I were getting on like a house on fire. I allowed the delicate creature to lead me to my bedchamber.
If everything is to your satisfaction, Mr. Fellows, I will bid you good night.
Please, Miss Stringer, I would much prefer to call me Rupert.
Very well. If you wish so, you may call me Lenora.
Lenora.
Good night, Rupert.
Good night, Lenora.
Once she had gone, leaving me with only the delicate aroma of her perfume and the soft, lingering memory of her final haunting smile, I fell upon the bed fully dressed and was instantly asleep. My slumber was uninterrupted, but for one strange occurrence just before dawn which awoke me. What on earth could be the source of such an unearthly sound I could not begin to guess. In the morning, I awoke fully refreshed, dressed swiftly, and headed downstairs in search of breakfast. For I confess, despite last night's splendid repast, I was again ravenous. A little to my surprise, considering the hour, Lenora was already breakfasting.
Good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, Lenora.
I trust you slept well.
Extremely well. And you?
I've had a little trouble lately in sleeping.
I see. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's fine. It's perfectly fine. It will pass, I expect, as most things do in time.
Certainly your brother does not seem to share your affliction.
What?
Your brother, Frederick, I conclude from his absence at this table that he sleeps better than any of us. Unless, of course, he is already up and about.
He is indeed up and about.
I see. I'm sorry. Miss Stringer. Lenora.
Indian or Chinese tea, sir?
Shindian. Inese, I mean, rather.
A little of each, sir.
Mrs. Yerp, is there anything, is there...
Nothing that need concern you, sir.
It's just that, Miss Stringer...
She'll be perfectly all right, sir, I can assure you, the minute you've gone.
Me? It is I who am the cause of her upset? Surely not.
My advice, sir, for what it's worth, is to quit this house as soon as possible.
Indeed?
It's a damned house, sir, lived in by a doomed family.
I don't understand. Miss Stringer seems to me...
Mr. Yerp, my husband, he set off for the village at 5 o'clock this morning. He'll be back with a horse for you by noon if you don't get trapped in the snow meantime.
7 hours to ride to the village and back? Is that far?
You won't be riding there, sir, only riding back.
Then how is he getting there? Not walking, surely. You have no horses here?
No, sir, the master and mistress won't have them on the property.
Why on earth not?
That's their choice, sir. It's not for us to question.
But what if there's an emergency? What if you need, say, a doctor? Do you hope to walk to the village in the event of a crisis?
If there's a crisis, then we runs, sir. Will there be anything further you require?
No, a splendid breakfast. Thank you, Mrs. Yerp.
Thank you, sir.
There being no further sign of my host or hostess, I resolved, since the weather had appeared to have improved, to walk a little in the gardens. Although covered in snow, this gave the house and outbuildings an almost fairy tale beauty. For the life of me, I could detect nothing in the least damned, let alone doomed about the place. I did not venture far for fear of getting lost, for the grounds were quite large enough to provide me with an exhilarating 2-hour walk around their perimeter. When I returned, expecting to find Mr. Yerp back from the village with my horse, I was to be disappointed. There was no sign of the man.
It is now past noon. Has Mr. Yerp not yet returned?
No, sir.
Oh, dear.
Snow will be deep around Keeper's Lug.
I see. It's just that my brother is expecting me. Was expecting me yesterday.
I dare say my husband's trying his level best, sir.
I do not doubt it.
I determined, rather than wait about, to walk the perimeter back the other way. Thus, I took another 2-hour stroll around those grounds. This time, when I returned, expecting to find Mr. Yerp back from the village with my horse again, I was to be disappointed. There was still no sign of the man. I resolved that he had fallen in a snowdrift.
I say.
Sir?
Is there still no sign of him yet?
No, sir. Afraid not. We'll be trapped in Swine's Bottom, most like.
But it's getting dark. I'm afraid I must be really going soon. Have you no other transportation of any kind?
None at all, sir. Like I said, excuse me.
Pleasant as they were, I could not face another 2-hour stroll around those grounds. This time I determined to walk a little closer to the house and outbuildings itself. It was whilst I did this that I discovered in a high stone wall a small concealed entrance that had previously escaped my notice. I tried the handle, half expecting the door to be locked. A little to my surprise, it opened easily, and upon stepping through it, I found myself in a small walled paddock. The snow here had all but been cleared. A not inconsiderable task, but for me, the source of far greater interest was the creature standing motionless in the far corner of the enclosure, its eyes fixed intently upon me. It was, to my surprise, no less a beast than a donkey. I cried out in surprise.
Good heavens! Come on, then. Come on, girl. Boy. Come on.
Why had they lied to me? Why, they told me that they had no means of transport when it was clear, even to one as untutored as myself, that this sturdy little creature was more than adequate for the task. My mind was made up. The hour was not late, and if I was to avoid traveling in darkness, I must leave this very instant. Having no luggage was, as it transpired, an advantage. I resolved to borrow the creature temporarily in order to reach the village. There, I would leave it for Mr. Yerp to recover. There could surely be no harm in this. But first to catch the beast, who, from what I knew of such creatures, was unnaturally shy.
Come on. Come on. I'm not going to hurt you.
He was an evasive brute, but at last, I succeeded.
Got you. Success. Now to mount you.
This task proved extremely difficult. He was the most reluctant of steeds.
Steady. Easy. Easy. Ah. All right. All right, my beauty. Just as far as the village, and I'll set you free. You have my word.
But scarcely had we taken 3 steps outside of the paddock.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Yerp, I can wait no longer. The beast will be returned, I promise.
No, please, sir, no, you mustn't. You can't. If you do that, you'll...
But before she could finish, the beast reared up and set off at a most terrifying gallop. I was indeed unaware at that moment that a mere donkey was capable of such speed. Out of the gardens we galloped across a meadow and then with barely a second's pause into the deepest part of the forest.
What? Where are we going? Where are you taking me, you brute? Oh.
By way of reply, the donkey merely brayed louder and increased the pace of its gallop. It was as if he was enchanted. On and on we strode, and just as I had ever given up hope of stopping again, long I remained unconscious, I do not know. When I awoke, it was dark.
Thank God he's still alive.
Snow broke his fall, else he'd be a dead'un.
Find my brother, Yerp. We must find my brother. He cannot be far away. Frederick! Frederick!
Mr. Stringer, sir! Mr. Stringer!
Rupert.
For the second time in 24 hours, I was to awaken to the sight of this angel of mercy.
Lenora,
No, don't try to stand, Rupert. You've had a bad fall.
he's over here, ma'am! Over here!
He's still right?
Yes, ma'am, he's still breathing.
Thank God.
The Lord be praised.
Why there should be so much relief and divine gratitude at the survival of what appeared to me to be an extremely foul-tempered and headstrong donkey was a surprise. But imagine my astonishment when the body around whom they were all anxiously gathered was no mere donkey, but rather my unsociable host of the previous evening, Frederick Stringer.
I'm all right. I'm perfectly all right. Leave me alone, I tell you.
Frederick.
I said leave me!
Mr. Stringer, how is it that you are here as well?
It's all right, Rupert. It's not your concern.
Lenora, I demand to know. Please tell me. How is it that he is here like myself, injured in the snow? Please, tell me.
But no satisfactory answer was I ever to receive. How Frederick came to be lying near me in the snow and what became of that incredible donkey will, I fear, remain a mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, forevermore.
Is that it then?
Yes?
Not much of an ending.
It never is.
No.
What are you complaining about? It's a mystery story. It's a classic Victorian mystery story.
You might at least solve the mystery.
Well, if I did that, it wouldn't be a mystery story, then would it?
What are you talking about? There are plenty of mystery stories where the mystery gets solved. Sherlock Holmes, he solves his mysteries.
Yes, Hercule Poirot.
Inspector Morse.
Columbo.
Well, it doesn't get solved in this one, so that's it. The end of my very own story. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. Come back next week. I'll have my props back and all.
Chapter 2! The mystery of Deepwood is revealed. Just as I had given up all hope of learning the secret of Deepwood House, Frederick stepped forward with a cry.
Just a minute.
What?
What are you doing?
Telling the rest of the story.
You can't do that. I finished it.
You may have finished it. I haven't. I'm carrying on.
You can't do that. It's my story.
No, it was your story. It's not anymore. You've just said you finished with it. You've thrown it away. He just said that, didn't he? Didn't he just say that?
Yes.
There you have it. They agree with me. Goodbye. Nice to have seen you.
This is illegal. This is unlawful. You can't do this.
Just watch me.
You haven't seen the end of this, you know. You haven't seen the last of me.
Bye.
Bye.
To continue. Chapter 2, the mystery of Deepwood is revealed. Just as I had given up all hope of learning the secret of Deepwood House, Frederick stepped forward with a cry.
It's no use, Lenora! We cannot conceal this secret a moment longer. He must be told the truth. He deserves that at least.
But Frederick.
Lenora, but for the snow, Mr. Fellows would be surely dead. Since by some miracle he has been spared, he should be rewarded at the very least with the truth. Are you strong enough to walk, my friend?
I think so.
Here, take my arm, Rupert.
Thank you.
And thus we made our way slowly back to the house, Mrs. Yerp leading the way, followed by the three of us. Mr. Fellows, our uninvited guest, my loyal, loving sister Lenora, and myself, Frederick Stringer. I observed our guests relying greatly on the support of my sister's arms, though I suspect, if truth be told, the support was more spiritual and emotional than physical. For it did not take one of much perception to deduce that the two were clearly in love. Alas, as things were at present, their love was a fruitless and futile thing. And I tried to explain to Mr. Fellows the nature of the curse that had been brought upon our family, that I had brought upon our family, for in all this, it cannot be emphasized too strongly that my dear, precious, sweet-natured sister was entirely innocent.
Mr. Fellows, I would have you know, sir, that I am to blame for all that has happened here. Many years ago, I behaved foolishly. I was punished quite rightly for this behavior. My punishment continues to this day, over 20 years. 20 years. Will it ever end?
Frederick.
It's all right, my dear. The simple fact is, Mr. Fellows, that due to some spell that's been put upon me by day, during the hours of daylight, I am transformed to that creature you saw earlier and tried to ride.
The donkey? You were the donkey? Is this possible?
It's not only possible, Mr. Fellows, it is the truth. By night, I resume my normal shape as you see me now, though my appetite, alas, remains those of a beast. And by day, I am as you witnessed me, that thing in the field.
How did this happen? Who could have done this heartless thing to you? And why?
It's a long story. I couldn't.
The tragedy is, Rupert, that even as a donkey, my brother is unable to enjoy himself or give innocent pleasure to others. He is a creature that no one may ride or even stroke.
No sooner are they upon my back than all the fires of hell burn through me. I must shake them from me and kill them, or perish myself.
Even a child may not ride you?
No man, woman, or child,
Save one.
save one.
Do you want any thistles, Mr. Frederick?
No, no, not now.
You mentioned there's one alone who can ride you. Tell me, who is this man?
It is no man, but a woman, Mr. Fellows. It is none other than the woman I betrayed.
And it is she who put the spell on you?
No, it was not she.
Then who? I'm acutely curious to know.
It is a sad and complicated tale, but if you so wish, I will tell you.
Frederick, is it wise, my dear?
Where's the harm now, Lenora? Where's the harm?
And I, Frederick Stringer, told him my story. My very own story, and that story, which I shall entitle, The Enchanted Suitor, I shall relate to you, ladies and gentlemen, should you be good enough to return in a few moments' time. We shall expect you. Please, do not be tardy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my very own story. A tale of contemporary times that I have entitled, The Enchanted Suitor, being the sad cautionary account of one Frederick Stringer, landowner and part-time donkey. When he was younger, 20 years younger than he was in our last story, Frederick was really a very handsome, extremely good-looking young man. He had only to step outside his door to Hey!
Go on.
What are you doing back here?
Young Frederick. What else?
No. You can't do young Frederick.
Why not? They said I could.
Who said you could?
Them back there. That lot. They knew you wanted a handsome fella. They took a vote and I won hands down.
Where's the real young Frederick?
Playing cards.
This is disgraceful.
Oh, go on.
This is my very own story. You're not my idea of young Frederick.
Oh, come on. Young Frederick was really a very handsome, extremely good-looking young man.
He was also, unfortunately, extremely conceited. He had only to step outside his front door for young women practically to swoon away at the sight of him. The problem with young Frederick was, like a number of very, very good-looking people, he didn't have much time for other folk at all. The only person he really loved was himself. His greatest pleasure was to stand in front of the mirror.
Ooh, you dashing devil, you! Ooh.
So, although many girls fell in love with him, he had no time for them, however beautiful they might be.
Shoo, go away!
He was extremely thoughtless and insensitive. And as for plain women, he had no time for them at all.
Oh! Ugh. Ugh.
In fact, the only thing to be said in Frederick's defense was that he was young and had been born naturally handsome and gifted, and therefore probably didn't know any better. But he was soon to learn, for Frederick, he didn't yet know it, was about to fall in love. Hopelessly in love. It started like most love stories, completely by accident.
Oh, oops.
So sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it was my fault.
No, it was my fault.
No, it was very definitely my fault.
Now for Frederick, having a stranger staring adoringly at him like this was no new experience. But to undergo the same emotion himself, here was the novelty.
I'm Frederick Stringer.
How do you do? I'm Cecilia Butterworth.
Hello.
Hello. Frederick Stinger. Stringer. Sorry.
It's quite all right, Miss Butterscotch.
Worth. Butterworth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Will you ever forgive me?
Of course.
And they went on like that. In similar vein for a very long time. But we won't bother you with all that now because unless you happen to be in love yourself, it does tend to get a bit boring. So anyway, Frederick walked Cecilia Butterworth home and very generously offered to carry all her extremely heavy parcels.
You're so strong.
When they reached her house, number 49 Hollyhock Street, to show how grateful she was to him, Cecilia invited Frederick inside for a cup of tea. It was a delightful little semi-detached house, tastefully furnished, and as clean and neat as a new pin. Frederick thoroughly approved.
Mommy,
Cried Cecilia.
I'm home.
Oh, darling! I was wondering where on earth you'd been. Oh!
Hello.
I brought someone home.
Oh, how lovely, Mr.
Stringer. Frederick Stringer.
Mr. Stringer picked me up, Mummy, after I'd fallen over.
Oh, how simply sweet of him.
I dropped all my parcels, but he picked them up too.
Super.
And then he carried them home.
Lovely. Would you like tea, Mr.
Stringer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's quite all right, Miss Buttermere.
Butterworth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do sit down. Do keep Mr. Stringer entertained, won't you, darling? Perhaps you could show him some of your pictures.
Mummy, he doesn't want to see those.
Oh, I'm sure he'd adore to see them.
No.
Do you care for pictures at all, Mr. Stringer?
Pictures? What sort of pictures are these?
Oh, you know, just little pictures. She draws them all herself. She's really frightfully talented. Everyone says so. But she's just so unbelievably modest. I keep telling her to push herself. You've got to push yourself, darling.
Mummy.
You tell her to push herself, Mr. Stringer.
I will.
All right, won't be a tick.
What a charming mother you have.
Oh, gosh, heavens, golly hopper, she's ghastly. She is so embarrassing sometimes.
Rubbish. I bet your father's amazing as well, isn't he?
No, Daddy's gone. He's no longer with us.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Did he die recently?
No, he's not dead. He just doesn't live here anymore. He's gone off. I think he got a bit cheesed off with us, really, and he sort of took off.
How frightful for you.
Yes, it was a bit. It was worse for Mummy, of course.
Just the two of you now, then, I suppose?
Well, and M, of course.
M?
My sister M, short for Amelia. I expect you'll meet her. She's a super person. You'll love her. Very warm and friendly. Look, you don't really want to see my pictures, do you?
Of course.
Oh, but they're terrible. They're awful. They're ghastly. They're absolutely blush-making.
I bet they're not. Come on, don't be so modest. Push yourself.
Okay, I'll go get them. Wait here. Look out the window if you want to. Feel free.
Left alone in the front room, Frederick took advantage of Cecilia's offer and looked out of the window. He saw a neat little garden with a tidy little lawn and a trim little fence. There were some smart little flowers standing in spruce-like rows, and some clean, orderly, in just a little tiny bit, but not all that much, crazy paving.
How absolutely lovely.
So absorbed was he with the view that Frederick failed to notice someone entering the room. It was Cecilia's sister, Amelia. Amelia, as Cecilia had intimated earlier, was the warmest and friendliest person you could possibly hope to meet. She was also one of the plainest.
Oh, hello there.
Frederick turned to see what it was. As I have told you, lack of beauty in others affected him deeply. He reacted to the sight of the poor girl with his characteristic sensitivity.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's always happening. You're a friend of Cecilia's, I presume. Hello. I'm her sister, Amelia.
I'm Frederick Stringer. It's nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you.
Oh, I expect you've been hearing how warm and friendly I am.
Yep, I have. You bet.
I thought you might somehow. I also dance, you know. Classical, modern, tap.
How clever.
A waste of time, really, as no one ever wants to watch me do it.
What a shame. I would.
Oh, you wouldn't. You know. You say you would, but if I started dancing for you now, you'd just stare at your feet or at the floor.
I bet I would. You know, I'd really love to watch you dance, Amelia.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You asked for it. Classical, modern, or tap?
A bit of each would be nice.
Okay. Here goes. Hold on to your hat. One, two, one, two, three.
Poor Frederick became fearfully embarrassed. Not only was the poor girl distressingly unattractive to look at, but she danced like a baby hippo. Fortunately, rescue was at hand.
Amelia, stop that immediately. That's better. Now stop embarrassing everyone.
Yes, Mommy.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stringer. Amelia here is a dreadful show-off. I hope you weren't too dreadfully embarrassed.
No, it's quite all right, Miss Butterworth. I was thoroughly entertained. Thank you, Amelia.
Really? One lump or two.
Two, please.
Hand around the tea, darling. Do something useful for heaven's sake.
Yes, Mommy.
Goodness. Amelia here rather fancies herself a dancer, but I can't say I'd give her much chance for the Royal Ballet, would you?
I really wouldn't.
Well, to start with, I think there must be some limit on the size of feet. Oh, and she's so terribly clumsy. I don't know where she gets it from. Oh, goodness. Oh, darling, you're just in time for tea.
Super. Hi,
Hello.
You've met Frederick.
Oh, yes.
She's been keeping him entertained in her inimitable manner.
Oh. Sorry I took so long. I couldn't decide which one to show you, so I've brought down the lot.
Oh, what does it matter which ones you've brought down? They're all equally good. You couldn't make me choose my favorite even if you forced me to. Now, what do you think of these, Mr. Stringer? You can be honest. Oh, he can be honest, can't he, Cecilia?
Oh, no, don't. Please don't. Most of these are just dreadful. I know they are.
In fact, Cecilia was wrong in only one respect. All the pictures were equally dreadful. Frederick was no art expert, but even he could tell at half a glance that the woman he loved, the girl he would willingly lay down his life for, had about as much artistic talent as a disoriented snail. And yet, love being what it is.
Now these are quite extraordinary. What a unique talent, Cecilia.
Oh?
Well, now, what did I tell you?
So fresh, so untainted by their capitalism.
Yes.
Unencumbered by dull formal training or the rigid technique of restraint. Yours is a true innate talent, Cecilia.
Thank you.
Now, what did I tell you? That's coming from someone who knows all about these things.
Oh, please, I really wouldn't know.
Enough to recognize talent.
Oh, enough to recognize that, I trust.
And at last, Frederick took his leave of the family, reflecting that he would probably in time grow to love Cecilia's pictures. Who knows? And if not, he would never, he was certain, ever grow tired of her glorious face. Over the next few days, Frederick and Cecilia spent every hour they could together, celebrating and cementing their newfound love. Frederick plucked up the courage to ask Cecilia to be his wife. He had seldom been so happy, so in love with another. Why whole days passed without him looking in the mirror at all. It had to be the real thing. Cecilia, needless to say, said yes. They broke the news to her mother, who was overjoyed. In fact, everyone was happy, or nearly everyone. As usual, nobody noticed Amelia. The plain, clumsy, talentless, good-hearted Amelia, as usual, was ignored. Preparations for the wedding were soon underway, and all mothers love weddings, but Alicia loved them more than most mothers. 2 days before the big day, something rather odd occurred. Frederick had popped round to their house to deliver some particular paper doilies that Alicia had asked him to collect. Cecilia was out somewhere, probably at the hairdresser's, for she had spent many days at the hairdresser's recently, for she wanted to look just right for her walk down the aisle. When Frederick arrived, though, Alicia seemed in an unusually solemn and serious mood. She asked Frederick if she could have a word alone with him in the front room.
What is it? Nothing serious, I hope.
Sit down, Frederick. I wanted to talk to you about something.
Yes, Alicia?
The point is, I don't want Cecilia to be hurt. Ever.
Hurt?
You're positive you love her?
Of course.
You'll always love and care for her?
How can you doubt that?
It's nothing. It's just, well, I have a reason.
Something to do with me? Something I've said? Something I've done?
No, I'm sure you mean what you say. It's just, well, sometimes people turn out differently than you expect them to.
How do you mean?
Well, you marry them and then you turn around and they're different. I can't explain it.
I don't see this at all. What are you trying to tell me?
You're sure you wouldn't be happier with, say, Amelia?
Amelia?
Yes.
Me and Amelia? Amelia and me? I mean, she has this marvelous, warm, and friendly nature, but I love Cecilia. She's the most beautiful creature in the world.
Whereas Amelia isn't.
Well, frankly, no, but she's marvelously friendly, but...
Well, then, since nothing I can say will make you reconsider...
You want me to reconsider?
I want you to be certain, because I'm not sure you're going to be happy with Cecilia, Frederick. I have this dreadful foreboding.
Nonsense. There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling me?
No, at least nothing either one of us can do anything about now. Take care of yourself, Frederick. I'm dreadfully fond of you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must unpack the confetti.
What on earth did she mean by all that?
Frederick was deeply puzzled. What could she have meant? Marry Amelia instead? What a suggestion. Why, he could barely bring himself to look at the poor girl. Whereas Cecilia, he could gaze upon her forever. And just think, the day after tomorrow he would be able to do so. Till death them did part. Oh, happy man. And soon enough, all doubts put firmly aside, the wedding day came. The sun shone brightly on the couple, the bride looked perfect, her hair just right. Even Amelia, the bridesmaid, managed to look, well, almost presentable, though she did trip over once or twice. Then on to the honeymoon, a perfect, love-filled, sun-drenched honeymoon, no second thought so far. And so back at their own little house, number 41 Hollyhock Street, just 4 doors down from the in-laws. A few weeks later, Frederick was standing alone in his front room, gazing out of his window. He tended to gaze out of his window quite a lot these days, mainly to avoid looking too much at the walls of their house, every inch of which were covered by his wife's watercolor pictures. Frederick was learning to live with them, but they were, he had to confess, an acquired taste, one that he had not personally yet acquired. And so, he gazed as usual, out of his window, noting with some pride his neat little garden with its tidy little lawn and its trim little fence. There were some smart little flowers standing in spruce-like little rows, and they're clean, orderly, in just a little tiny bit, but not all that much, crazy paving.
Supper's ready, darling.
Right. You've done something to your hair, have you, darling?
No?
To your makeup?
No?
Something's different.
No, darling. Silly, come on, it's on the table.
But as Frederick made to follow her, he felt rather peculiar. Could it be that his wife was growing less attractive? Surely not. She was, after all, the most beautiful woman in the world. And yet, something about her was, just for a second, was almost unattractive. No, he was imagining things. He was losing touch with reality. So he looked out of his window to reassure himself that all was well. And at that moment, he saw someone passing in the street. A woman, faintly familiar, and yet quite unfamiliar. For this was someone, for a recently married man at least, disquietingly attractive. Just for a second, that was. For then, as she turned and saw him watching her, she smiled at him. A warm and thoroughly friendly smile, and he saw at once it was Amelia. Plain old clumsy old Amelia. Woman-friendly maybe, but not beautiful, never. Attractive perhaps in certain lights, but compared with Cecilia, what nonsense. But as weeks went by, as regards his wife, the feeling wouldn't quite go away. In fact, some days she looked positively ugly.
Look, darling, are you going to fix it or not?
Yes, I'm just coming, darling.
Well, it's leaking all over the place, darling. I thought you said you were going to fix it.
I will. I've only just got home from work, you know.
Well, it's all right for some then, isn't it?
But then these tiffs are common enough in any marriage, and soon pass. And Frederick continued to work hard and saved what money he could for that magic day when they would start a family. And Cecilia worked hard to keep the place nice for them, thinking up little improvements to make their little home even prettier. And she and Frederick had even decorated the spare bedroom as a nursery for the child they fully expected to start any day now. The only major problem to all this was that, after a year of marriage, Frederick could no longer bear to look at Cecilia at all. She had grown most unbelievably plain, and as you recall, the one thing that Frederick could not abide was plain people. In fact, looking in the mirror of late, he detected a certain diminishing in his own good looks as well. No, impossible.
Well, I'll just be off to bed then, dear.
All right, dear.
Will you be joining me, dear?
Not quite yet, dear.
Thank heavens for that, thought Frederick.
Righto!
Said Frederick rather too cheerfully.
Night-night then.
I see.
What?
No, nothing.
What is it?
Not even a goodnight kiss now, I notice.
Oh, no. Right, here you are.
No, I don't want one now. It's no good now, is it?
Come on. Don't be silly, darling.
No, don't want you slobbering all over me. Go away.
What on earth has gotten into you? You're impossible these days.
Don't you start telling me I'm impossible. You're the one who's impossible, not me. You're the one who can't even bear to look at me, who can't even bring himself to kiss me unless I beg him to. You're the one. I can't help it if you don't find me attractive. Don't blame me. It's not my fault, is it? I knew this would happen. I knew it would. They all said it would.
Frederick was quite staggered at this sudden outburst.
Oh dear.
Partly because he had no appreciation of how clearly he had allowed his real feelings to show.
Heavens.
So he decided the best thing was to go for a walk, allow his wife time to cool down. Poor Frederick was quite unaware that, so far as cooling down was concerned, women took invariably far longer to do so than men. And so Frederick took off along the street, intending to walk around the local park. That very park where a year ago he had walked and talked and dreamed with Cecilia. Ah me, but he had gone less than a few hundred yards when he spied coming toward him an apparition of such beauty, such grace, such divine enchantment, that he stopped dead in his tracks. Who could she be, this vision of loveliness?
Oh, hello, Frederick.
Amelia!
Frederick, at that moment, fell in love all over again.
What are you doing out at this hour?
The moonlight picking out the soft, gentle contours of her face, sparkling in her hair like spun moonbeams.
Frederick.
Her eyes so clear and bright, brimful of warmth and friendliness.
Frederick, are you all right?
Yes.
Are you sure? You look terrible. Here, I've just come back from my evening down at the mission. Here, take my arm. Let's go inside.
Not only warm and friendly and beautiful, but she worked for the poor. Oh, perfection. She led Frederick inside the house.
Here you are. Sit down. Mommy's out at the moment. Would you like some tea? I'll make us a pot.
No, please, don't worry.
Shall I pop around and fetch Cecilia? Is she home?
Yes, she is, but no, Em, please, don't. Sit down.
Sure.
Yes.
All right. What on earth are you staring at?
Would you do something for me, Amelia?
Yes, of course. What is it?
Would you dance for me, Amelia?
Dance?
Yes.
For you.
Please.
But I'm awful. Everybody says I'm awful. I can't dance. I've no talent.
I think you have. Please, Amelia.
All right. If you're sure, if it'll make you feel better. Classical, modern, or tap?
I really don't mind. I just want to watch you moving.
Okay. It better be classical then. It's a bit quieter, you know, and it's getting rather late. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
As Frederick watched her, he was suddenly gripped with the compulsion to dance with her, even though Frederick had never before danced classical ballet in his entire life. But Frederick, as he embraced his sister-in-law in the front room of his mother-in-law's house, had overlooked another vital fact concerning women in general, and wives in particular, that when their lives become difficult, or their marriages impossible, they invariably run home to mother.
I knew it. I knew this would happen, you little hussy.
Cecilia,
Cecilia, I'm sorry. I was just,
I knew you'd do this. I knew you would. Mummy said you would if you couldn't have done it. I'll never forgive you for this. Never!
Cecilia, oh Lord, oh heavens, oh gosh.
Oh dear.
Oh, I've gone and ruined everything now, haven't I?
I'm afraid you have, rather.
Burnt my boats.
Completely.
Both boats.
Frederick, you've sunk the entire Navy.
Oh, how could anyone be so stupid? What a fool! What a fool!
And Alicia, though she did not bother to contradict him, at least had the decency not to say, "I told you so." Though she did have every excuse to do so. And the moral of the story is this: before you marry anyone, not only examine them very, very closely, but do make sure to examine yourself as well. That is, if you do not want to make a complete and utter ass of yourself.
Is that it then?
That's it?
That's not much of an ending.
What do you mean?
Well, you complained about my ending. This one's much worse. No ending at all.
It's a perfectly good story. It's a simple modern morality tale, that's all.
You might at least finish it.
Yeah, I think you ought to finish it.
It is finished. Look, I'm not arguing. That's my very own story, and that's it. It's finished. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye, and thank you.
Chapter 3. The true story of the Butterworth family. Frederick turned to Alicia. Only she could tell him how to extricate himself from his plight.
Just a minute.
What?
What are you doing?
Telling the rest of the story.
You can't do that.
Why not?
I've just said it's ended. It's finished.
You finished with it. I haven't. I'm carrying on.
You can't do that. It's my story.
It was your story. It's not anymore. You're finished with it. Anyway, you carried on his story. Why shouldn't I carry on yours? Fair's fair, isn't it?
Yep.
There you have it. They agree with me. Goodbye. Nice to have seen you.
This is disgraceful. You can't do this.
Here I go.
You haven't heard the end of this, you know. You haven't seen the last of me.
Bye.
Bye.
And Frederick turned to Alicia and begged her to tell him how all of this had befallen him.
All right, I'll tell you.
Said Alicia.
If truth be told, the fault does lie with me.
and her eyes filled with tears as she began to speak. And so begins my very own story, a fantastical, magical tale of long, long ago, which I shall entitle The Sorcerer's Daughters.
Many years ago, Frederick, when I was much younger, I was a pretty little thing. Is that hard for you to imagine?
No, not at all.
Cried Frederick gallantly, if a little untruthfully.
I suppose I look rather like my daughter Cecilia does today. And in due course, I fell in love with the most handsome of men. Not unlike you, Frederick.
Thank you.
Or as you used to look. For not only was he rich and handsome, he was also a sorcerer.
A sorcerer?
Yes, you smile, but it's true. Such people do exist. Only they're very secretive. And unless you marry them, you'd never know they were one. His name was Various, and he was a white wizard. His spells were always for the good, including the spell he cast on me when we first met. Oh, we were so happy, Frederick, you can't imagine. He was the most remarkable of men.
Oh, no.
Fair's fair. They said it could back there. They've come to a very exciting point in their card game.
All right, carry on. Anyone less like a sorcerer?
Better than the one we got back there.
Oh, just get on with it.
His name was Various, and he was the most remarkable of men. Ours was truly the happiest of marriages. And in a year or two, I presented him with 2 daughters, whom we christened Cecilia and Amelia.
And Frederick listened spellbound as Alicia continued to relate her story. Because they were so rich, they lived in this huge castle where the children played happily all day long. They had the run of the place, all except for this one room which no one was allowed to enter, not even their mother. This was the room where the sorcerer Various kept his spells and potions, a secret room which only he and he alone could enter. The sorcerer's code was a strict one, for if anyone other than they themselves were to find out their secrets, then the penalties laid down by the Imperial Grand Society of Sorcerers were too terrible to mention. And Cecilia and Amelia grew up to become beautiful and healthy and strong. Cecilia favoring her mother's looks and Amelia her father's. If there was a cloud in the sky, it was this. Alicia was the most ambitious mother. She wanted not just beautiful children, but the most beautiful children in the whole world. And she wanted them, eventually, not to marry honest, ordinary, decent young men, but the richest and most powerful princes in the whole kingdom. And if an unsuitable boy should even approach them, she would quickly shoo them away. And she would reprimand her children most severely for even talking with common rough boys. And so, both of them being children who loved and trusted their mother, they listened. And so the next time a common rough boy even dared to approach them, neither girl would have anything whatever to do with him. And so, but, you know, Various, he knew nothing of this. But if he did, he would have been very upset, and he might have been able to stop all of the terrible things that were about to happen. In due course, Cecilia and Amelia grew up and put aside childish games and became mature, sophisticated young women. What parent could have asked for more? Alicia, the proudest of mothers, doted on her girls. She adored them. Their every wish was her command. They were, if truth be told, terribly, terribly spoiled. And yet, as beautiful as they were, Alicia felt that they could somehow still be more beautiful. As tall as they were, wouldn't it be nice if they were a mite taller, a fraction more elegant, a tiny bit more charming? Surely, her husband could arrange this, a couple of quick spells. After all, he'd cured them of measles, hadn't he? But Various refused and said no. Magic wasn't to be used for personal gain, and certainly not for foolish things like this. In fact, he got quite firm with her, so Alicia had to pretend to make the best of it, because although it happened very rarely, if her husband ever did lose his temper, it was a terrible thing to behold, and it often drained for weeks afterwards. And then one day, Various had to go away for a while to attend the Society of Sorcerers annual conference up north. He bade his family farewell and told them to take good care. He'd only be gone a week or so. That very same night, when the girls were in bed, Alicia began to think. What would be the harm, she thought, using just a tiny spell, if it helped her daughters? After all, she was only thinking of them. It was perfectly natural in a parent who wouldn't offer half the chance. She was sure she'd be able to whip up a spell as simple as that. She'd seen her husband do it, and all looked perfectly simple to her. So she crept into her husband's study. It was like a treasure trove in there, books piled high against the wall. Glass bottles filled with strange colored liquids. And glass jars filled in with things she couldn't begin to guess what was inside of them. Ugh, dusty bottles, dusty dishes, an awful lot of dust. Ugh. And so Alicia finally found what she was looking for, the spell book.
Let's see here. B for beautiful. Bats, banshees. Beautiful. Brackets. See also irresistible, even better. Ooh, incubi. Oh. Irresistible. To become irresistible, prepare the following ingredients in a large jar.
The mother worked feverishly, for although she knew full well that her husband was away, she had this uneasy feeling that someone, somewhere, was watching her.
Oh, out of the way, damn cat. There. Now, stir the ingredients well, and then pour over the pillow to inhale overnight. Simple, nothing to it.
She then crept out of the study and tiptoed to her daughter's rooms, where she, ever so gently, being careful not to wake them, poured the magical mixtures onto each of their pillows, and then crept out of the room. In the morning, when the girls awoke, they seemed to Alicia no different than before.
Dang, must have made it wrong.
But later on, when they went for their stroll in the garden, she witnessed the results for herself.
Must have made it a bit strong. Never mind.
The potion worked better than she'd dared hope. Over the next few days, Alicia decided to introduce her new irresistible daughters to a few possible suitors. It would be up to them to decide which one they wanted to marry. After all, who could refuse them now? They were irresistible. So Alicia invited the kingdom's most eligible princes, all fabulously rich, good-looking young men from every corner of the realm.
Hello.
Ooh.
The potion really was most effective.
Hello.
Me likey.
In fact, rather too effective.
Here?
No, here.
No, over here.
Come on.
Come on.
The problem was, as Alicia soon discovered, was that although her daughters were now irresistible, they gradually lost their hearts, and to each of their suitors, they became as cold and uncharitable as the north wind itself.
Girls, that's enough.
Yes, please, mercy. I give in.
You must let Prince Denzel sit down.
We don't want him to sit down.
Why ever not?
Because he doesn't please us.
He revolts us.
He disgusts us.
He repels us.
He appalls us.
Go away.
Go away.
But ladies, I beg you.
Go away!
Oh, no.
You naughty girls. That was no way to treat a crown prince.
But every prince was treated just the same. In fact, worse and worse.
Girls, this is Prince Basil.
Good afternoon, ladies. Ooh.
Hello, fatty.
Hello, ugly.
Oh, there's two.
Girls, be nice to him. He's incredibly rich.
All right.
You say so.
Here then, Spotty. Do you want to play a game then?
Going to play a game, Wartface?
Anything to please you, ladies.
Blind man's
Oh,
bluff.
super.
Don't wriggle.
Hold still, silly little man.
Your balls so beautiful.
Of course we are. Don't touch me.
We know we are. Don't touch.
All right. Whichever one of us you can catch, you can kiss.
Maybe. Off you go then.
Now, girls, you must let Prince Basil catch one of you.
Possibly.
Perhaps.
Who knows? Basil?
Who can tell? Basil!
Hey, this way, Spotty.
This way, Lumpy.
That's it.
That's the way.
Come on then. Run to me now, Basil.
No, run to me, Basil.
Now, Basil! Oh no!
Oh dear. He's fallen off the battlement into the moat. Poor old Basil.
Bad luck, Basil.
Oh, you wicked girls! You did that intentionally. I know you did. Oh, you wait. I'll send you to bed with no supper. You wait till your father hears about this.
We don't care.
We'll push him into the moat as well.
See if we don't.
Oh, dear.
But before she could say another word, the girls had flounced away to torment more village boys. Alicia was horrified. She realized all of this was her fault, and although she had threatened it, she was secretly quite afraid to find out what Various was going to say when he returned. He did, as I say, have a terrible temper when roused. She searched frantically for an antidote for the irresistible spell, but she could find none.
Repulsive? Repugnant? Oh, none of this will work. What if I get the strength wrong again? Oh, no one will ever want to look at my beautiful children. Oh, what am I to do? What am I to do?
She could do nothing, and so the daughters, day by day, grew more cruel and heartless without a second thought for anyone, man or woman. They destroyed marriages. They wrecked young love wherever they could find it. They stole grooms from brides, husbands from wives, only to discard them again instantly, without a second thought for the unhappiness they had caused. People lived in fear of them now. Far and wide hearts were broken. Not a single soul who loved, or was in turn loved, was any longer safe from this wicked pair. And then, one day, word reached the family that a stranger had arrived in the kingdom, a prince, far richer and more handsome than all other princes. What is more, he had asked to meet with the irresistible daughters. Their fame by now had spread far beyond the kingdom. Their mother was very excited.
Now, girls, this time, please.
All right, we'll see him.
For a second.
Show him and then mother.
Don't do anything too dreadful, please.
What should we do to this one then?
Drown him.
Oh, done that.
Drive him mad with desire and make him jump into the fire.
Oh no, we've done that as well. Twice.
Oh yes, so we have.
I know. We'll make him give us all his money.
By asking trick questions.
Which he could never answer.
Yes.
And then make him pay the forfeit.
Yes.
To drink them out
Through a straw.
till he explodes.
Shh, he's coming.
Girls, this is Prince Nemo.
Hello.
Hello.
Your servant, young ladies.
Why didn't he go, oh, I don't know. What is it you want?
And why are you wearing a mask?
I have come to pay court to you. The mask is so that you will not be influenced by my devastating good looks, but only by the sincerity of my nature.
He certainly thinks a lot of himself, doesn't he?
He certainly does. We'd better pull him down a peg or two, hadn't we? If you have come to pay court to us, then you must first prove your intelligence by answering 2 questions, one from each of us. Do you agree?
I agree.
We have decided to be generous, so you may have as many guesses as you like, but for every guess, you must give us money. Do you agree?
I agree.
Very well. The first question shall be mine. It's very simple. You have merely to guess the date of my birth, but wait, the date and time to the exact second. For every second you are wrong, you will pay me 1 piece of gold. For every minute, 10 pieces of gold. For every hour, 100. For every day, 1,000. And for every year, you are wrong. 1,000,000 pieces of gold. Do you agree?
I agree.
Proceed then. You have plenty of time.
Oh, plenty of time.
Now, girls, that's quite impossible. Even I don't.
Mother.
The strange prince appeared to think deeply for a moment.
Come on.
Come on.
Cecilia, you were born 18 years ago, on the 39th second
of the 51st minute of the 8th hour of the 15th day of the 7th month. Am I correct?
You might be.
Is you know?
Of course he is. I remember now.
There was no denying it. The unknown prince was most undoubtedly correct.
That was a very, very lucky guess. You must now answer my sister's question.
Oh, surely the prince has done
Next
enough.
question. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Very well. Mine is also a simple problem. You have merely to guess my middle name. You may have as many guesses as you wish. For the first guess, you'll pay me 1 piece of gold. For the second, 2 pieces. For the third, 4. For the fourth, 8. And for the fifth, 16. And so on. If you continue to guess wrongly or when you finally give up, then you pay the forfeit, which, I warn you, will probably be your life. Now go ahead. Aren't you gonna have a guess?
Perhaps you can't think of any names.
I was simply wondering.
Wonder away.
I was wondering what could possibly be the middle name of a young woman so empty, so cold, so unfeeling, so heartless. Surely the answer is that, like your very self, there is nothing at the center at all. And thus my answer to your question is equally simple. I look where your heart should be and find nothing there but emptiness. Likewise with your names. You have no middle name, Amelia.
He's right.
How did you know that? Someone must have told you. Oh, you told him, didn't you? I'll get you for this.
We'll get you for this.
No, girls, I swear it wasn't me.
Get her! Get her!
Stop!
Darius?
Father?
Father?
Oh, your father's very angry.
I am. Very angry and very sad. Sad that I'm unable to trust my own family, my own wife. Unable to trust her not to meddle in things that do not concern her.
You know?
Of course I know, woman. Even though I was 1,000 leagues away, I knew the very second you unlocked the door and stole into my study. Oh, Alicia.
Oh, the fault lies entirely with me. Don't blame the girls.
I blame only myself for allowing such greed, such vanity to destroy my own family, the people I cared for most in this world.
What will happen to us?
What are you going to do towards father?
Please don't punish us. We didn't mean.
Celia, you have created your punishment long ago. You have worshipped your looks and neglected your nature, child. Well, keep your looks for as long as they last. Indeed, you will need to fight to keep them. For I will tell you this. If anyone loves you, they will love only those looks. Should they tire of that beauty or it begins to fade, they will discover nothing beneath it but emptiness. And then and only then will they perceive the true beauty in your sister here. But too late. They will have already chosen.
Oh. And me? What about me?
Amelia, you are condemned to live eternally in your sister's shadow. You have chosen to put your true beauty aside. In that case, let it remain forever hidden, where most men, being as they are, will never think to look for it. Instead, they will choose your worthless sister.
Oh.
And for those foolish men who cannot perceive beauty that is more than skin deep, such asses by night deserve to be no more than donkeys by day. Let them bray away in the field until they finally come to their senses.
And what about me? I'm your wife.
Take your children and go, woman. I finished with you.
Finished with me.
Go!
But it's pouring with rain.
Mother, come on.
Mother.
Well, what, don't I get any settlement? Any alimony?
Try working.
Work.
Mother.
Mother.
How will we live?
You'll be provided for, don't worry. Now leave me before I grow really angry.
The sorcerer was as good as his word. He rehoused his family at number 49 Hollyhock Street. A pleasant little property, but a bit of a come down from a 50-bedroom castle, I must admit. I suppose as sorcerers go, he was fairly pleasant about it, but it has to be said, at the end of the day, they're not the easiest of people to live with. So unforgiving, really. And with a long and bitter sigh, Alicia finished her story.
And Frederick, who had listened intently to all this, now fully understood the curse that had fallen on him when he had betrayed his wife.
Do you understand now, Frederick?
Yes, I do.
He said a trifle uneasily, for Frederick felt a deep sense of shame, not least because he had behaved so boringly and predictably, just as a magician prophesied he would.
Oh, fool! Fool!
And he ran from the room. past his wife and her sister, for he could no longer bear to look at either of them. And he sold the house and contents of Hollyhock Street, divided the cash, gave his wife custody of the watercolors, and moved away to a dark, distant forest, where he pooled resources with his sister and bought a large, deserted mansion, where he lived the rest of his life, by day a donkey, and by night a lonely, bitter man with only Lenora for company. The end.
And as Frederick finished his story, the lights of the house came into view.
What a remarkable story.
Every word of it is true, Rupert.
I do not doubt it. What is to be done then?
There's nothing to be done. Nothing. Come, let us end this bitter narrative.
I could see that the brother had lapsed into his former gloom once again, probably as a result of retelling his story. I was destined, anyway, to spend another night in this doom-laden house, for it was now far too late to think of traveling. My poor brother and sister-in-law and my angelic little nieces and nephews would have to be disappointed. With luck, I would join them on Boxing Day, although without the presents I had intended for them, poor mites. It was even now my fervent hope that the villainous coachman Gorf was choking to death on his stolen sweetmeats and rich plum pudding. I slept fitfully that night, my dreams filled with warlocks and witches and donkeys, and yes, I must confess, with Lenora, whose divine countenance dominated everything. My bedroom overlooked the driveway, and I was awoken by a heavy knocking on the front door. And a few seconds later by excited, raised voices.
Madam! And I say you can't just arch your way in here, madam!
Good heavens, woman, I've driven all through the night, through the most appalling conditions. You have to let me in.
The mistress is still abed, and the master is elsewhere. They can't be disturbed.
Oh.
You have to wait!
I dressed quickly.
This is impossible. I say my business is of a most urgent nature.
Nothing to do with me.
May I be of assistance, Mrs. Yerp?
No, it's perfectly all right. This here lady's just come visiting, that's all.
Oh, sir! Please, I'm afraid I do not know your name, but if you have any influence, tell this woman that my business is most urgent.
My name is Rupert Fellows, at your service. May I inquire, madam, what is your name?
My name is Miss Cecilia Stringer, if that means anything to you at all.
I caught my breath.
It certainly does. Kindly let the lady pass, Mrs. Yerp. I can vouch for her. Madam, I am but a guest here, but I will see to it at once that either Miss Stringer or her brother are awoken at once.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
They wouldn't want that, sir, I can assure you.
But before I could argue further with the wretched woman, Lenora appeared. I fear we had disturbed her.
What is the matter? Oh,
Madam, this woman's been trying to...
This lady, Lenora, is none other than...
I'm Miss Cecilia Stringer. You must be Lenora. I'm your sister-in-law, Miss Stringer.
so it would appear. What do you want here?
To see Frederick, to see my husband.
He is no longer your husband.
Indeed.
You have no relationship to this family any longer. I must ask you to leave.
But surely you couldn't.
Please leave, Miss Butterworth.
I am Miss Stringer, and I am staying here until I've spoken to my husband.
He wouldn't wish to see you, I assure you. Good day. Miss Yeller, please show this lady out.
Yes, madam.
Oh, I beg you, sir, if you have any influence, please, intercede on my behalf.
Lenora, I must plead on this lady's behalf. Her distress is pitiful to behold. I'm sorry if I seem
What
to...
would be the point, Rupert?
Where can be the harm? She has traveled a long way, and it is past dawn, and Frederick is presumably... Where can be the harm? Please, for my sake.
Very well, Rupert. For you, I will reluctantly grant your request.
Thank you, thank you.
It is against my better judgment, it must be said. Yerp is the master.
He's already out on the path, ma'am. He's had his head.
Thank you, Yerp. Now, Miss Stringer, you will be able to see for yourself all the shame and indignity which your marriage has heaped upon my brother.
I realize. Believe me, I already realize.
As we walked together to the paddock, I attempted to lift the mood of the party with some light conversation.
You traveled alone, Mrs. Stringer?
Yes. Under normal circumstances, my sister Amelia would have traveled with me. But our mother is taken ill, and I'm afraid we couldn't leave her completely alone.
Nothing too serious, I hope.
Oh, no, but she is of an age now where such things do happen. Fortunately, she has a naturally strong constitution, which I've inherited. In fact, now that I'm older, people say that we're not dissimilar in looks.
Well, then your mother must certainly be an attractive woman, Mrs. Stringer.
Mm-hmm.
We reached the door to the hidden paddock.
I don't know what you intend to do now you're here, Miss Stringer, but please, be quick.
I will, thank you.
Normally, I pride myself on being a normal, strong, masculine, unromantic man, but the scene I was about to behold all but brought tears to my eyes. Miss Stringer and the donkey stood staring at each other. The woman wore an expression of such tender and touching sadness it was almost unbearable to behold. As for the donkey, at first it seemed he failed to recognize her, until the donkey let out such a bellow that could only be interpreted as one great joyous cry of greeting.
Oh, Frederick!
The woman rushed forward, wrapping her arms around the donkey's neck. In an instant, a miraculous transformation took place. Where once the dumb creature had been, now returned to his natural shape and size, stood the joyful figure of Frederick Stringer.
Cecilia!
Oh, Frederick, you haven't forgotten me?
Forget you, Cecilia. Can you forgive me?
Of course, with all my heart.
So moved was I, and anxious not to embarrass the newly reunited couple, that I turned to Lenora to make some light conversation.
Miss Stringer, may I ask you?
Oh, yes, Rupert. My answer can be none other than yes.
There had been, it seemed, a small social misunderstanding between us, but one that I was more than willing to overlook. Moreover, the habit appeared to be catching.
Oh, Mrs. Yerp.
Mr. Yerp!
And at that moment, hovering in the sky, the spirit of Various the Sorcerer appeared.
Cecilia, you have at last found a selfish love. The spell is now broken.
Who's telling the story?
And as for Amelia, she too was finally free to find true love. And she did so almost immediately with a certain Albert Haskins, just a few doors down at number 25 Hollyhock Street, a very eligible bachelor who not only worked for the gas board, but was an extremely accomplished ballroom dancer.
Look, what's going on here?
But the main reason why Amelia loved Albert Haskins was that he looked exactly like the younger version of her sister Cecilia's husband, Frederick.
Oh, what the hell? Darling!
And as for Various himself, wouldn't you know it? He hired an apprentice who reminded him much of himself. Sorcerers have all the luck.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you will,
Whichever way you look at it.
Whichever story you choose to believe.
his,
Or his.
Or his.
however it may start,
However they might continue.
You'll find they all tend to finish up much the same in the end.
the end.
The end.
The end.
The end!